Guess who just popped in, Corey, for a cameo appearance? Ben Marchi coming up in a few moments. And it's great to have you with us. A speech last night. Also, Corey just showed me a clip here on the Blaze TV network. Sean Spicer, who I was with last night at the party at Trump Hotel, watching it. As soon as the speech was over, I left and went to bed. Apparently, Sean Spicer, who was on our show yesterday, had, how should we say, Corey?
A bad ice cube, we call it. You got a bad ice cube.
He got a bad ice cube in one of his cocktails. And he, if you see this clip on Blaze TV, who was that interviewing him? Brian Bowling, right?
Eric Bowling, yeah.
Eric Bowling. He was, shall we say, 3 sheets to the wind.
Well, look, everyone was enjoying the president's celebration last night at the State of the Union, some more than others. And look, my advice, John, and I can just tell you this, my advice is, after a few cocktails, it may be best to stay off of television. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. I mean,
but who am I to judge, Sean? He who has not sinned, let them cast the first stone. That's all I can say.
Well, one thing you learn about when you do TV like we do is you really don't have a cocktail before you get on the air. It's
correct.
Not a good thing to do on radio either, but definitely not the thing to do. And I have gotten like 52 texts here from Ben Marchi. Ben, stop texting me and just come to the studio.
It's a very easy location. It's called Pennsylvania Avenue. Maybe you've heard of it in Washington. There's a big white house.
I'll be 5 minutes late. What's the address? Give it to me again. Where do I go? Is the door open? Is there coffee there? Do I have to get dressed? I mean, just like get up and come to the studio.
Just right back, yes. Whatever the question is, just say yes is the answer. I mean, John, look, I'll tell you, John, last night was a really special night. I just got to be honest with you, I thought the president was magnanimous. I think and I mean this, he probably delivered his best single speech from the time I've met him until today. And that's saying a lot. That's coming down the escalator speech, that his first joint session of Congress, his inaugural. Last night was really special. The room was electric, you could tell. There was not a person in that room, Republican or Democrat, who didn't stand up at one point or another and cheer for what the president had to say. That's the vision of a true leader, bringing everyone together. Look, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything he says, but when he talks about more women serving in Congress than ever before, we should be applauding that. When he talks about the historic low unemployment rate for African Americans and Hispanic Americans, we should be applauding that. When he's talking about locking up people who are human traffickers to prevent them from bringing people across the border illegally, we should be applauding that. And most importantly, I thought he was masterful last night in his outlining of the people in the audience, the guests of the president, whether it was the young girl who raised $40,000 to beat cancer, that poor girl, the 6-year-old boy who fell asleep during the speech, 6th grader who fell. I understand. I know what that's like.
Right.
Or the American heroes who literally liberated our country and gave us the opportunity to have the freedoms we do today. That's what Donald Trump pointed out last night, and I thought it was absolutely masterful of reminding people of the very country has to offer.
Greatest speech ever. Corey, we were at the pre-speech meeting, remember? And yes, you answered the door, let Ben in. We were at the pre-speech meeting with the president the day before, and he kind of outlined his excitement for what he was going to do. But nothing like this speech and how he did, which I thought was a phenomenal delivery, and he hit on all the right things, and it was just fantastic. Corey, I looked at that speech, and I thought I just want to get your comments on the Democrats and the white suits, which I didn't like the optics. My wife called me after it was over, and the Fräulein, and said they looked like the Stepford Wives, and she was embarrassed by the whole thing. What did you think of those optics?
Look, I think what happens is, John, they want to make a statement. But the statement on the night of the State of the Union should be, our country is better and stronger together than it is divided. And look, they can oppose the president's policies. John, let me just go back to the people that were there last night, the guests of the members of Congress and the president. The Democrats literally brought illegal aliens to the speech, and the Republicans, Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee specifically, brought the family of the son who was killed, the firefighter captain's son who was killed in a car accident by an illegal immigrant right after Christmas. And if that isn't a juxtaposition of where this country is going, Democrats are literally bringing people who don't belong in this country legally to the State of the Union. The Republicans are bringing people who are fighting every day to stop illegal immigration from happening. And the individual that the president pointed out, the man who woke up as an immigrant and said, I want to be an immigration officer, I want to come and help. And this is the person whose job is to help oversee the prevention of human trafficking in our country. That's everything the American people saw. And you know what, John? I'll tell you, last night, watching it on television, talking to people afterwards, even the fake news, the mainstream media, the CNN pundits, they wanted to hate on the president, I get it, but the polling data was very clear. The American people loved what they heard. 76% of the respondents to the CBS poll said they thought the speech was positive. CNN's own poll said that people thought it was positive. So look, this president had the right message last night. He had the right inflection. He had the right story. He talked about the successes of our country over the last 2 years. He talked about the vision going forward. And John, because we were at the White House together, people say to me, how is the president? What's his attitude like? How's he feeling? You and I both know, because we've seen it, he's upbeat, he's positive, he's ready. He's a big game player, and when the big game came, he delivered.
Big game player, no question about it. The delivery of the speech and the content, I thought was a home run, no question about it. I'm going to introduce Ben Marchi, has finally found his way here to our studio at Corey Lewandowski Galactic Milky Way headquarters after he sent me 15 texts from what do I wear to where is it to do you have coffee to I'm late to the Lyft driver can't find it. As I'm on the air, multitasking, finally he shows up. Ben, good to have you with us.
Could you have told him what to wear? Because we thought he was the contractor coming in and do some work at the place.
Well, that's why, when I saw him at the door, I locked the door now when I come in because
it's called dressing like an average American, so Democrats wouldn't recognize me.
Well, one time I didn't lock the door, and the only time Corey ever fussed at me, we know each other a long time. He only fussed at me one time during the campaign. The only time he fussed at me is I left the door open. I went for the cleaners or something, and in walks a reporter, just walks in and starts taking pictures. And he's like, dude, I love you, but, it's very easy to do. When you leave, like a normal person locks the door and they leave. You don't just leave the door open to my home. So here in Washington, D.C., that's the only time we fuss.
Especially in Washington, yes.
So when we saw the person with a wool hat out there, that's what I thought. It was like somebody begging for coffee or I'll work for food, and I'm like, don't open the door.
Look, I've known Marchi a long time, okay? We worked together for a long time. He will beg for food. I can assure you, we go back a long time, me and Ben.
It was a great reminder being on the Hill last night, going to a couple receptions with Congressman Ben Klein, and I looked at the tables going in, and there were all these staffers gathered around the tables, and I remembered how I used to feed myself when I was up here on the Hill as a junior staffer. So, back to my roots.
That's exactly right.
Now, look, you were in the galley, right, last night, Ben Marchi.
Yep.
And Corey and I were on TV. Saw it all. But when I looked at that speech last night and I was going back to my place, Corey, I said, wow, I have no doubt in my mind we're going to get the president's going to get reelected in 2020. That was like the first thing that hit me. I kind of thought he was. I think he is. But Corey and Ben, after that speech last evening, I'm like, we are not going to lose. We are going to win again in 2020.
I had Democrats sitting on either side of me last night, guests of their respective members, and the revulsion they had at the Democrats sitting on their hands when he trumpeted, 5 million people getting off food stamps, when he said that we will never become a socialist country. It was even too far for the Democrats sitting next to me in the gallery. And that's how I knew that this was a speech that was going to hit its mark. And we saw, I didn't see the polling till this morning, but I'm not surprised.
I mean, the number of didn't cheer when the president said 5 million people have left food stamps. I mean, isn't that what the purpose of food stamps is? To help, there's a safety social net, help you think through tough times. And then you want to be successful and you want to move up and you want to be able to get to a different income bracket where you don't qualify, you don't need them. And most of the Democrats didn't clap.
Well, sitting up there, and I was right around the corner from the First Lady and Buzz Aldrin, American heroes like the World War II guys that were up there, and to see the way they stood up, proud of their president, proud of their country, and cheered, was such a contrast to the petulant ninnies down on the floor, sitting on their hands. And America saw that too.
John, when the president said that we're going to be free from socialism, how does everybody not stand up for that? It's so socialism is a failed process. Ask the people in Venezuela. We're the greatest country in the world, and when you talk about food stamps and assistance, John, I grew up poor in Lowell, Massachusetts, and it's the greatest country in the world because look where I am today, right? Mm-hmm. The president of the United States is a friend of mine from hard work and effort and a lot of luck. But that's what this country is about, and nobody wants to be relying on government assistance forever. And the president, with the programs he's put in place, the deregulation of the government, cutting taxes, has allowed more people in the workforce today than ever in our nation's history. And that's not for white America. That's for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, purple, green, orange, blue Americans. It doesn't matter, because when you give people opportunity in this country, they take it because they want to be better. That's what this country's been built on. That's what this president is achieving.
Well, and on top of what Corey said, we should be able to agree on some simple principles in this country, right? One, America's good. Two, socialism's bad. Apparently not.
No, that's exactly right. And I'll tell you, John, the one thing that I think drives American people crazy is the hypocrisy on the left. Bringing an illegal alien to the State of the Union, right, is just so hypocritical. The
what
rebuttal.
Was that about?
The rebuttal from
why would she do that?
The rebuttal from the former member of the legislature from Georgia,
Stacey Abrams.
She started off by saying my dad had to walk home, and hey, look, we've all had our trials and tribulations in our family. And I'm not knocking hers, better or worse than mine. But we're better today than we were 2 years ago. More people are working today. There's more opportunity. To say that there are no jobs out there is just a fallacy. She didn't even listen to what the president said before she had that speech. And I think that was a disservice, because whether it's CNN or CBS or any other outlet, they all gave the president high marks. But except, a few of the commentators, Van Jones wanted to chastise this president who just a few months ago was praising the president for getting criminal justice reform done. Nicole Wallace said, he wasn't paying attention. He's not listening to America. These people are lost. They're in a bubble, and they don't understand what's going on out in Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I was in Detroit on Friday. I was with the Terry family. Okay, Brian Terry, who was killed in the line of duty, protecting you and me from illegals coming across the border. I was with his family on Friday. I said, how much money would you give for the wall? And they said, there is no amount of money we would pay to bring Brian back. Nancy Pelosi's answer is $1. That's what she thinks human life is worth, and I disagree with it, and so is the president, and he outlined that last night.
John, it surprised me last night that Stacey Abrams, that she talked about how hard of a time she had. Well, she's not the only person who's had a hard time in this country. And last time, they all voted for Trump.
Look, they want opportunity, John. They had the chance to live under the Obama policies for 4 more years. It was called Crooked H. And they summarily rejected her. They rejected her because they didn't want that. And Donald Trump said, give me a chance. What do you have to lose? Let me do something. And the African-American community, who only voted for Donald Trump at 6% in the last election, which, by the way, is a historic number, if you can believe it, is now better off today than ever under the 8 years of the Obama administration. And we're more forward-facing. And when the criminal justice reform bill was signed in a bipartisan manner, they praised Donald Trump. Who were his guests last night in the audience? People who had been victims of a society that penalized them based on their skin color. And the president said, this isn't right. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get him out of that bad situation. We're going to make sure nobody else does it. But that's not what the left wants to talk about. What the left doesn't want to talk about is very simple. Elizabeth Warren lying on her card to be a Texas bar member, saying she is Native American. Okay, she should be disbarred for that. There is no outcry today. The left doesn't want to talk about anymore what's taking place in Virginia, John, with not only the governor but the lieutenant governor. When credible accusations were made supposedly against Brett Kavanaugh, it was guilty first, try the case later. Now it's against the lieutenant governor, and they're saying, "Whoa, let's slow down. I haven't seen it. We have to take everything in step." This is the hypocrisy of the left. The American people know it, and that's why they turn out to vote for Donald Trump, because even if you don't like what he has to say, you know he's at least going to tell it to you straight.
Don't you think, Ben, last night, Ben Marchi, it was a very bad night for the Democrats?
Well, if their scoring was based on how many times they stayed on their hands, it was a very successful night. If it was about national unity, which I think is what most independent voters want from us, want from their elected officials, then it was a catastrophe. I mean, these were people who I have an exchange here, a text exchange between my wife and my mother last night, and of course, Mom, proud her son's in the gallery, says, what do the boys think of their daddy being there? And my wife responds back that my 3-year-old has asked 100 times where daddy is, and keeps talking about the stubborn Democrats.
This is smart.
This is a 3-year-old, okay? If a 3-year-old gets it, I promise you, a single mother in Wisconsin gets it.
Yep.
No question about it. I'll tell you what an unbelievable night for the president last night, and I really, really feel confident now going into 2020, guys. I just feel like we're in such good shape. I don't know what the Democrats are going to do, but I thought it was a very, very bad night for them. Ben, well on his way. I almost thought that last night was kind of, here's what the campaign is going to be, and he laid it out brilliantly, I thought, last evening. Early in the speech, guys, I was watching it in the American First Policies party, and it was a little loud in there, so I didn't get everything. But early in the speech, he said something, and I thought I saw Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema get up and clap. What was that? And she was the only Democrat that I saw do that. Did I mistake that?
I missed that. There were though a couple times that I sitting where I was, I could see most of the members' faces, and there were a few times where you'd see random Democrats get up and speak. Good for them.
Look,
we applaud that.
I'll tell you this. I saw Steny Hoyer up and down a lot more than Nancy Pelosi was.
Right.
I'm sure he will get the wrath of the Progressive Party today, right? AOC and the others are going to be after him now for standing up and supporting bipartisan common sense approaches to governing. And so, but he was there. He was getting up and he was supporting the president because it was a unifying speech. It was a speech that everybody in America could feel something with, that understood that the president's talking to me. He wasn't talking to the people in the gallery or the people on the floor. He was talking to those men and women at home in their living room saying, I'm going to give him one more chance. I don't like the way he tweets, but I'm going to give him one more chance. And the president delivered exactly what he needed to last night, which is telling the American people, like Ronald Reagan did, our best days are in front of us. We're the greatest country in the world. We will fight our enemies with complete resolve. We will take care of our friends and our allies. But most importantly, we're going to put America first. And I'm here to fight for you every day. That's what I heard. It was a visionary speech. It was so well done. And John, that speech is the hallmark of the Donald Trump presidency so far.
When the Democrats seemed very confused last night, they couldn't figure out when to stand, when to sit. They had to be told when to stand and sit.
By Pelosi.
And I could see the confusion on their faces. They'd each look at each other and do we stand now? Do we stand later? When do we stand?
They were waiting for Nancy to give the cue.
They were waiting for the orders from their master.
I don't know who was saying it. I think it was Congressman Griffith said, remember the paper she was going through? He said it looked like she was like going through a menu trying to decide what to have at the after party.